My name is Piper Whitmore. I'm 32 and live in a quiet suburb near Asheville, North Carolina. I work as a campaign manager at a nonprofit media organization. Steady job, decent income, enough for my fiance and me to live comfortably. Not lavishly, but we don't have to count every penny. Logan. My fiance proposed after nearly 3 years of dating. He's calm, kind, and works as a mechanical engineer for an automotive design firm in Charlotte. We plan to get married in mid-September when the maple trees across the Blue Ridge Mountains explode into color. My family, especially my mother, seemed very eager to help plan the wedding. I should have been grateful. But the truth is, things quickly spun out of my control. It started when my mother, Miranda, sweetly offered to help lighten my load by choosing the venue. I agreed. A few weeks later, the deposit had already been paid without a single word to me. I only found out when she sent a picture of the Willow Creek estate with a message that read, "This one has a wide lawn, perfect for a tent. Just what you wanted, right?" I swallowed my frustration and replied, "Thanks, Mom." I told myself at least she meant well. But it didn't stop there. The dress, the invitations, even the dessert options. Everything was being assisted to death. My younger sister, Aubrey, who has always been called Mom's perfect copy, inserted herself into nearly every meeting with the designer. I remember suggesting a simple square neck satin gown, and Aubrey wrinkled her nose. "Square necks make your shoulders look wide, Piper. You don't want to look bulky, do you? Mom thinks high lace collars are more elegant." She said it like I was a prototype to be adjusted, not a bride. The designer, a middle-aged man from Savannah, nodded in agreement. I sat there silently, lips dry, murmuring a flat, "Sure." Logan and I were covering almost all of the expenses. My family had agreed to contribute a symbolic portion, which turned out to be $4,000 for flowers and the initial deposit on the jazz band. The rest, nearly $36,000, came out of my pocket. That included the venue, invitations, floral arrangements, bridesmaid dresses, catering, and hotel rooms for both sides of the family. I was the one mapping out every detail, every timeline. Yet the closer the wedding got, the more I felt like an outsider. During family meetings about the wedding, I often ended up sitting quietly at the end of the table while Mom and Aubrey giggled about changing the bouquet color to amber so it'd match the bridesmaid dresses. Logan noticed something was wrong. One evening, as I was double-checking the catering contract, he sat down beside me and held my hand. "If this doesn't feel right, we can start over. You know that, don't you?" I forced a smile. "It's not that. I just feel like I'm being pushed out of my own wedding." He fell quiet. Didn't say a word, but his eyes told me everything. He saw it. I didn't speak up. I'd been trained not to. My whole life I was told, "Don't make a fuss. Let Mom handle it. Aubrey has better taste anyway." I no longer knew where help ended and control began. But what unsettled me most was a growing, unfamiliar feeling. I wasn't sure if I was even wanted at this wedding anymore. That morning, I woke up earlier than usual to bring the updated menu and printed invitations to my mom's house for a final review. The night before, she had texted, "Stop by early tomorrow. I want to double-check the invitation border color. It looks a little dark." I drove over with a latte in hand, still heavy-hearted from a mild argument with Logan the night before. It wasn't anything major. He just wanted me to tell my mother I needed our wedding, to return to our vision. And me? As always, I stayed silent. Avoiding conflict had become second nature. I entered through the side door, like always. The house was still. No laughter, no clinking silverware, no morning radio. I called out softly, "Ma, you home?" No answer. On the granite kitchen counter where Mom usually left sticky notes sat a cream-colored envelope placed neatly beside the sea salt jar. In bold letters, it read, "For Piper." I tore it open, heart tightening. Inside was a single sheet of paper, printed in Times New Roman, no date, no heading, no signature. "The wedding is canceled. Expect a call from my attorney. Do not come back." I stood frozen. My eyes scanned the words 3 times, and my brain still refused to comprehend. Canceled? Don't come back? Attorney? I looked around. Nothing had changed. The ceramic tea set still sat on the wooden tray. The napkins were folded perfectly, like they had just left moments ago. The room still smelled faintly of vanilla candle wax, Mom's favorite scent. And yet, only this cold, heartless piece of paper remained. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I picked up my phone and typed 3 words. I understand. Then sent it to my mother. Driving home, I couldn't recall how many intersections I passed. My mind was blank, but my hands gripped the steering wheel so tightly they turned white. When I arrived at my apartment, I didn't go inside. I just sat in the car for nearly 30 minutes, staring at the text. I understand. Not long after, a ding, a message from Uncle Jonas, Mom's younger brother. Piper, sorry if this wasn't meant for you, but I think you should see this. Attached was a screenshot, a group chat titled, Revised Wedding, Karen and Cole. Karen? My cousin? She had just gotten engaged 2 months ago to a guy named Cole, a kind man who hardly knew our family. I opened the image, scanning it line by line. The first message was from my mother, Miranda. It makes more sense to shift everything to Karen. Same venue, same vendors, less waste. Aubrey chimed in. Karen will shine. Everyone agrees. Is the dress fitted yet? Then Karen. I'm heading to the boutique at 11 to pick up the dress. Piper's sizes clothes just need to take in the waist. I couldn't feel my hands anymore. I stared at the screen, and everything around me began to spin. They had planned this. They didn't just take the venue. They took the invites, the menu, the band, the dress. Everything I had spent an entire year organizing, working, saving for. I walked into the living room and placed the menu, prints, and invitations on the table. At that moment, I saw it all clearly. I wasn't just excluded from the wedding. He had been replaced. No explanation, no phone call, just a printed message and a silent betrayal. I turned to the wall where my wedding timeline hung, each deadline marked in red, every payment due, every dress fitting and tasting appointment. Now, all of it was just the ghost of something that was never truly mine. I sat down, opened my laptop, and created a new folder. Evidence. I began dragging in every email, receipt, confirmation text, and even conversations I once thought were harmless. That text from Uncle Jonas had felt like the lowest blow of the week. Until not even 24 hours later, another string of messages appeared, this time from Becca, my maternal cousin in Portland. Piper, you need to see this. It came from an email forwarded by Aunt Lois. I think someone CC'd me by mistake. I opened the attached file, and it felt like a cold fist had clamped around my heart. Subject line, updated schedule, Karen and Cole wedding weekend. Attachment, a polished 8-page PDF, complete with the Willow Creek Estate logo at the top. I tapped it open. Page 1, a message from the Miranda Whitmore family thanking dear friends and loved ones for joining Karen and Cole in celebrating their upcoming union. My whole body tensed. Who is union? Page 2, a detailed itinerary. Friday, cocktail reception at the Lakeview Glass Atrium. Saturday, outdoor wedding ceremony featuring the Auburn Quartet. Sunday, farewell brunch in the Golden Elm Banquet Room. Every single detail was mine. The Auburn Quartet was the ensemble I'd booked with a $1,200 deposit. The Golden Elm Room was the space I'd selected for its natural morning light. Even the processional song, a soft Debussy piece, was listed under bride's entrance. I couldn't skim anymore. My eyes dropped to the bottom of page 3, where the bride and groom itinerary was clearly labeled Karen Whitmore and Cole Daniels. Not a single mention of me. No footnote acknowledging the original bride. No explanation. Each page sliced deeper than the last. Embedded in the email were images. Wedding dress fittings, floral design mock-ups, invitation layouts, all using the very designs I'd submitted to the planner. The only change? They'd replaced my name with Karen's. She hadn't even bothered changing the font. On instinct, I opened Instagram, and right there at the top was a post from Miranda Whitmore. Only 3 weeks to go, the family is buzzing with excitement as we prepare for Karen and Cole's big day, a perfect fall beginning. Hundreds of likes, people I'd known since high school, former coworkers, everyone leaving heart emojis and sweet congratulations. And tapped the hashtags. Whitmore weddings, fall love, she said yes. Photos filled the screen. Karen trying on a gown at the boutique in downtown Asheville, the very place I'd gone 3 times with Mom and Aubrey. In one shot, she held the dress up, and in the background, you could barely make out a nameplate. My name, covered clumsily with white tape. Another showed her grinning next to a 4-tier wedding cake, the exact design I'd approved. I zoomed in. The only change was the frosting flower color, from blush pink to mustard gold. My hands trembled, not from shock, but from the awful clarity that I'd seen this coming. I just never believed they'd actually go through with it. I reopened the evidence folder on my laptop, created a new subfolder, full replacement. I dragged in every image from Instagram, every forwarded email, every transaction receipt. Screenshots from Becca and Jonas. I worked for over 2 hours, not eating, not drinking. Just naming, saving, organizing. Then came a Facebook notification. Aubrey had just posted. So proud of my sister, the most radiant bride this October. Karen deserves every bit of this. Beneath it, my mother commented, "Thank you, sweetheart, for always being there for me. No one could have done it better." No one asked where I went. No one explained why I'd been erased, as if I had never existed. I stood up, walked to the hall closet, the one where I kept the original contracts. I pulled out the venue deposit receipt, the floral service agreement, and that handwritten budget document Mom had once handed me, just to keep things organized, she had said. I laid the papers out carefully on the table, then silently grabbed my phone. I scrolled through my contacts to the one name I hadn't spoken to about any of this. Logan. My finger hovered over the call button. I knew once he heard the truth, there would be no going back. But if I stayed silent, I'd be replaced. Again, without a sound. I pressed call. I didn't scream. I didn't throw anything. I didn't post a single word on social media. My anger didn't flare. It simmered, cold and precise like a scalpel. After a short call with Logan, where I said only one thing, "I need to show you something. Meet me tomorrow night." I hung up and returned to my desk. The laptop screen glowed blue against my face, casting a faint reflection in the window behind me. I opened the evidence folder and created a new subfolder. Wedding finances cross-check. One by one, I pulled up every email thread with the event planner, every bank transaction from my personal account, and every direct payment to the bridal boutique, the invitation company, the jazz band. Over $28,000 in total, excluding the convenience advances I gave my mom, as she'd phrased it. Clearly remembered 2 months ago, my mom had handed me a stack of papers asking for a quick signature because the bank just needs authorization for the venue payment. I was exhausted that day, juggling work and back-to-back calls with vendors. I didn't read a single line. I signed at the bottom and sent it back. Now I opened the bottom drawer of my desk where I kept hard copies just in case. The folder was labeled Event Budget, Piper and Logan. But when I pulled out the contents, the header didn't say budget plan. It read Financial Reassignment Agreement, Karen and Cole, Wedding. I stared at the page, heartbeat slowing like something was pressing down on my chest. Under the printed name Piper Whitmore, there was my signature, clear, unmistakable. I flipped to the last page. In fine print at the bottom it read, "By signing this document, Party A consents to fully transfer all financial responsibilities and rights related to the booked wedding package to Party B, Karen Whitmore, in accordance with family event restructuring." I had no memory of ever reading that. The more I read, the clearer it became. This wasn't a mix-up. It was a plan, with structure, with a thin ethical veil and just enough legal phrasing to make it seem like I had voluntarily given up control. I picked up my phone, photographed every page, and saved them to an album titled Emergency. Then I emailed my old company lawyer, Emrandy, who had helped me through a labor dispute back in 2019. Subject: urgent, need legal review of attached documents. The body of the email was one line. They're calling it a family reassignment, but I didn't sign up to erase myself from my own life. That night, I received her reply. Piper, this contract shows clear signs of fraudulent intent. We need to meet in person as soon as possible. Does 9 a.m. tomorrow work? I nodded to myself, as if Randy could see me through the screen. I didn't sleep. I spent the entire night verifying each transaction, from the $2,000 music deposit to the $8,500 catering payment. Every time I saw my name replaced by Karen's, I annotated beside it. Name changed. No consent. Near dawn, I logged into my personal Dropbox. In the folder, Piper and Logan Wedding Assets, I had once stored every piece of the wedding plan, guest list, invitation mock-ups, color palette drafts. Everything was gone, or more accurately, moved. I checked the recent activity log. One email address appeared repeatedly: aubrey.w.events@gmail.com. My sister. I almost laughed, not from amusement, but from disbelief. They hadn't just replaced me. They had manipulated my data, impersonated me, and weaponized my trust to legitimize theft. I created another subfolder in my main archive: manipulation, timeline, events, and actions. Each event was timestamped. I started building a digital timeline, formatted as a PDF, numbered with citations. I had no idea how a court would rule on a stolen wedding, but I knew one thing for certain. Truth doesn't need embellishment. It only needs to be complete. As morning light filtered through the window, I looked at the screen, where my name still sat in the upper right corner. Piper Whitmore, account owner. I whispered into the silence, "You really thought I'd stay quiet this time?" Then I clicked upload, backing up everything to a secure hard drive. I never thought I'd power up that old phone again. It had been sitting untouched for 4 years in the bottom drawer, next to faded Polaroids and a frayed charging cable. The screen was slightly cracked in one corner, but it still lit up. It was a rainy evening, just after I'd met with Randy, who confirmed that the reassignment contract could absolutely be voided in court. I didn't know why I reached for that phone. Maybe I just wanted to remind myself that I had once existed, had once been loved, before being replaced like a discarded draft. In the voice memos folder, I didn't expect much, but one recording caught my eye. Thanksgiving_dinner_2021 M4A. I stopped breathing for a moment. That Thanksgiving was the last time the extended family had gathered in full. I remembered stepping out to the backyard after Aubrey kept interrupting me during dinner. I must have accidentally left my phone recording. I hit play. The clinking of silverware came first. My dad's voice joking about who took the last piece of turkey. Laughter. Then my mother's voice, calm and cool. Piper abandoned. Another project again. No follow-through. Nothing new. Aubrey chimed in, mouth full. Totally. She's fine, but she's not special. Karen knows what she wants. My mother's tone softened, but her words chilled me deeper than the November wind. Piper always needed someone to carry her. I'm exhausted from pretending I still expect something of her. I don't know how long I sat listening. At one point, I closed the phone, but didn't stop the playback. Their laughter echoed like a warped soundtrack to the years I had convinced myself were loving. No one defended me. No one said, "She's your daughter." Just Aubrey, sealing it like a verdict. If she ever gets left behind one day, I won't be surprised. I shut the phone off. My head was numb with cold, but inside, something was rising. A wave, not of pain, but of clarity. I turned on my laptop and saved the audio into a new folder. Evidence, discrimination, and exclusion. Just then, my phone lit up with a call from an unfamiliar number. New Mexico area code? I didn't answer. A text followed right after. Piper, it's me, Colton. I heard what's happening. There's something I need to tell you, if you're willing to listen. Colton, the man I had loved for 2 years. The only one who ever saw me before I had anything to prove. He disappeared with a single text. I'm sorry, I'm just not enough for you. Never asked why. Not because I didn't care, but because I believed what they told me. Maybe you're too much, maybe you exhaust people. I texted back. Go ahead, I'm listening. A few minutes later, he called. His voice was hoarse, slightly unsteady, but sincere. Piper, I didn't leave because I wanted to. It was your mom. I stayed silent. He continued. She called me 3 times. First, she was polite. Then she said you were going through emotional instability. The third time, she sent a packet to my office. Medical history summaries from your collapse in 2018. My hand tightened around the phone. She said that if I really loved you, I should walk away so you could heal. And I believed her. I thought I was doing the right thing, but now I see I was manipulated. I asked quietly, do you still have that email? Yes, and the handwritten note she sent, plus the threat that if I didn't step back, your dad would interfere with my job. I stared at the wall, my memories shattered like misaligned film reels. I spoke, barely above a whisper. Send them to me. He paused, then said, Tonight, Piper, I'm sorry. I didn't reply. I ended the call. I wrote the email at 3 a.m. The glow of the laptop screen lit up my face, expressionless. I had rewritten it 3 times. On the 4th, my hands no longer trembled. The subject line read, Legal notice non-negotiable. Sent to miranda.whitmore@outlook.com, aubrey.w.events@gmail.com. The message was short but cold enough to freeze every emotional reflex. As of this moment, I formally demand that both of you cease all use of my image, personal information, assets, and wedding plans that I financed. If I do not receive a written response within 72 hours, I will proceed with a civil lawsuit for fraud, breach of trust, and misappropriation of assets. All legal documentation has been submitted to and is now being handled by my legal counsel. This is not a threat, this is an official notice. Piper Whitmore. I hit send and leaned back. The chair creaked softly, as if in agreement. I didn't wait long. At 7:40 the next morning, the first reaction came, not via email, but through a Facebook post from my mother, Miranda Whitmore. The background, a portrait of Karen in a wedding gown, standing in a lavender garden. Some children, even when raised with love and sacrifice, still choose betrayal. We cannot control pain, but we can control how we rise from it. Underneath, Aubrey commented, Jealousy warps the truth, but family means forgiveness. Even after betrayal, we choose love. They never mentioned my name, but everyone knew who they were talking about. Less than 3 hours later, I received an email from Grant and Bellman LLP. Notice of lawsuit, Whitmore v. Piper Whitmore. I opened the attachment. They accused me of misusing family funds to plan an unfulfilled wedding, fraudulently withdrawing from trust accounts under Karen's name, and claimed I exhibited unstable behavior negatively impacting other family members. Each line cut like a blade, but I didn't bleed. I had been preparing for this. I forwarded the email to Randy with a single line. We counterattack, add defamation, and willful character assassination. That same afternoon, I posted a short message on my LinkedIn account, where I knew many in the nonprofit media space who had once worked with my mother would see it. Truth doesn't need consensus. When someone tells you you're too sensitive for standing up for yourself, stand taller. No one gets to redefine you just because you're no longer silent. I tagged no one, I named no names, but the ripple was immediate. 30 minutes later, I got a message from Heather Banks, a former colleague of my mother's, now director of communications at a nonprofit in Denver. Piper, I've always believed in your voice. If you need legal support or public transparency, I'm here. I've seen what Miranda does to people who dare disagree. I saved the message and added Heather to my potential witness list. That evening, I sat at the small dining table by the window, rain tapping steadily against the glass. In front of me, the draft of the counter lawsuit filing. Piper Whitmore v. Miranda Whitmore, Aubrey Whitmore, charges, financial abuse, signature forgery, misappropriation of personal assets, public defamation. I signed it. No hesitation, no retreat. I walked down the hallway to the mailbox, slid the thick envelope into the outgoing slot. That night, I slept. No dreams, no jolts. And the next morning, I began counting down, 20 days until court. I began my counterattack not with a statement, but with a spreadsheet. I opened a new Excel file and titled it Manipulation Timeline, Financial and Legal Cross-Check. Column A, Date. Column B, Event. Column C, Attached Evidence. Column D, Involved Parties. Column E, Violation. I sat there, filling it in patiently, row by row, as if dissecting my life with the blade of truth. I pulled up every transaction email I had sent to wedding vendors and cross-referenced them with the changes Mom and Aubrey had made behind my back. One entry showed a $2,750 payment to the string quartet, clearly billed under my name, but the updated contract listed Karen Whitmore as the client. I attached a screenshot in column C and labeled the row Unauthorized Financial Identity Transfer. And so it went, one line after another. By the end of the night, there were nearly 40 documented entries. Around 11 a.m. the next morning, I was reviewing expenditures from a small nonprofit I had co-founded with my mother, Bridge for Her, a scholarship fund for young women in engineering, when a new email appeared. Senator Stephanie Lang, the foundation's former accountant. I hadn't heard from her since she retired 3 years ago. Subject: Stephanie, concerning untransparent funds transfers. I opened it instantly. Piper, a former colleague told me about the lawsuit you're facing from your own family. I can't stay silent anymore. During my tenure as the accountant for Bridge for Her, I found 3 irregular withdrawals labeled family administrative fees. When I questioned them, Miranda said they were internal processing costs and asked me not to note them clearly in reports. I retain copies of the transfer slips. Your name is listed as the signer, but I know that signature isn't yours. I also kept a scan of the forged signature and the email Miranda sent instructing me to handle this quietly. If needed, I'm willing to testify. Stephanie, I stepped away from my chair, hands trembling. They hadn't just hijacked my wedding. They had used my name to siphon money from a charitable fund, a fund I helped build from the ground up as a college intern. Every layer of trust peeled back revealed something darker, and at the bottom was fraud. I called Randy immediately. They used my name to withdraw nonprofit funds. I have evidence and a witness. Stephanie Lang. Yes, she has the forged signature and internal emails. Perfect. We'll add forgery, nonprofit embezzlement, and reputational harm to the countersuit. Correct. I exhaled. Slow, deliberate. That afternoon, Randy sent me the revised draft of our filing. I didn't read it like a victim searching for justice. I read it like a plaintiff reclaiming every cent, every breath. That night, I printed it out and marked edits in red ink, like I was editing the final chapter of a book I finally owned. On the last page, just above the line, official plaintiff, was my name. I picked up the pen and signed. There was no dramatic music, no thunderclap, just the deep, weighted silence of someone who had finally stopped asking for permission to exist. I saved the PDF to an external drive, then I picked up my phone and messaged Colton. Gave me the final piece. Thank you for not staying silent any longer. 30 minutes later, he replied, You never needed saving, but everyone needs someone to prove they weren't crazy. I owed you that. I set the phone down, turned back to my laptop. The cursor blinked in a new folder title bar. I typed, "Evidence, no more room for silence." Then I hit enter. The court date was set for a Wednesday morning in room 302 of the Buncombe County Civil Courthouse. Light rain drizzled down. The cold air bit at my skin, but I didn't flinch. I wore a charcoal coat, a plain gray suit underneath, nothing flashy, no need to stand firm. Randi arrived early, carrying 2 neat binders packed with tabbed documentation. She gave me a steady look. They hired a new firm, big name, but not bigger than the truth. I nodded, saying nothing. My calm wasn't forced. It had been forged through countless hours facing betrayal, manipulation, and calculated silences. Across the courtroom, my mother, Miranda, sat flanked by Aubrey and their attorney. She wore a black dress, pearls at her neck, face stone cold. Aubrey looked noticeably thinner but didn't look up from her phone. Karen was absent. Just an empty chair marked secondary defendant. The judge, a woman in her 60s with a silver bun and a no-nonsense tone, opened the session. "This is civil court, not a talk show. We deal in evidence, not emotions." Her side presented first. Randi began with a detailed timeline: payment dates, the contract signature day, defamation post timestamps, the unauthorized withdrawals under my name from Bridge for Her. Every item was backed by scanned originals, email chains, and verified attachments. When Randy projected an email from Miranda instructing Stephanie Lang to handle the foundation withdrawals discreetly, Miranda visibly shifted, glancing for the first time at her own lawyer. Then came the signature analysis. The forensic specialist Randy had called in testified. The 3 signatures on the wedding reassignment contract did not match any known official signature of mine. Finally, a pre-recorded video statement from Stephanie confirmed forged documents and unauthorized fund movements using my name. No one said a word. The defense tried to retaliate with an old psychological evaluation I had submitted during grad school, referencing mild anxiety disorder. Their angle, that I had a tendency to misinterpret reality and over. The judge set the file down, looked directly at Miranda, and asked, "So you're suggesting that your daughter, the named head of the fund who paid for her own wedding, is mentally unfit, which gave your family permission to rewrite contracts, forge her signature, and control her personal assets?" Silence. 1 hour later, the court recessed. I stepped into the hallway and sat alone on the wooden bench. I didn't eat, I didn't drink. I just stared toward a small window where rain misted the glass. For the first time in years, my reflection didn't look blurred. Back inside, the judge delivered her preliminary ruling. Piper Whitmore is recognized as the rightful owner of all assets related to the wedding, including contracts, payments, and services. All transfers bearing Piper's name without proof of informed consent are nullified. The defendant's lawsuit for financial misuse is dismissed for lack of merit. The issue of Bridge for Her is to be referred for independent investigation due to potential criminal financial activity. The room was silent. I looked toward my mother. She didn't meet my gaze. Aubrey, for the first time, lowered her head. I didn't smile. I didn't sigh. I simply stood, nodded politely to the judge, and walked out. No one stopped me. No one called my name. The courtroom doors closed behind me like a period at the end of a long, brutal chapter. Outside, the rain had stopped. I stepped down the granite stairs and took a deep breath. The air was cool, clean, still. No one followed. No one said goodbye. And I had never felt more free. 1 week after the trial, I returned to the house on Maple Ridge, the place I once called home, with 2 legal folders and a small envelope holding my old key. No warning. No appointment. I didn't plan to knock. The house was quiet, the curtains still drawn. Like every family dinner, I was quietly excluded from. I entered through the side door, the same entrance I'd used for over 30 years. The smell hadn't changed. Dried lavender, polished wood, and something cold, like memories frozen in place. I placed the legal documents on the kitchen counter, a copy of the court's ruling and a formal request to return my personal property. Beside it, I left my old house key in the glass dish my mother used to fill with holiday cookies. No note, no anger. Just one act. I no longer belonged here. 2 days later, I received a courier envelope. Inside was a check for $31,320 and a brief handwritten line in black ink. Reimbursement for wedding expenses and associated damages, Whitmore Family Fund. No apology, no signature. I wasn't surprised. I didn't deposit the check. I had it framed in black wood with a small brass plate engraved beneath it. Proof they knew. It now sits on the shelf of my new office, where I laid the foundation for the most important thing I've ever built, Wells and Whitmore Foundation, an organization dedicated to supporting women who've been financially abused or legally undermined by their own families or partners. The name Whitmore isn't there because I wanted to keep it. It's there to remind the world that even so-called prestigious names can be a mask for quiet destruction. I used it to take back power. I wrote the first line of the foundation's website. We don't help you get revenge. We help you stand legally, vocally, truthfully. Soon after, I posted a public message on my personal profile with blurred photos of court documents. The title read, I was replaced in my own life, and this is how I took it back. I didn't name names. I simply told the story of a woman who was dismissed, overridden, manipulated through family ties and moral veneers. I didn't blame, I didn't justify, I told. Within 6 hours, the post had been shared over 11,000 times. Strangers commented, old classmates messaged me. One wrote, I used to think you were the quietest person in school. Turns out, you were the only one strong enough not to be loud. Some asked if I wanted to go on television, speak in interviews. I declined. I didn't need spotlights. I just needed enough light for others like me to stop walking in the dark. 1 month later, with 2 pro bono attorneys, I hosted our first workshop at the West Asheville Community Center. Topic, when the one who hurts you shares your last name. Over 60 people showed up. There was an older woman whose son drained her retirement, a college student whose sister took out loans in her name, and a 19-year-old girl sitting in the far back corner, hands still shaking, whispered to me after the event ended. I thought I was the only one whose mom called her a traitor for not handing over her scholarship money. I held her hand, said nothing, 'cause I knew if she could sit in that room, hear enough, see enough, that was enough to plant hope. That night, back in my small apartment, no stolen wedding flowers, no hijacked string quartet. I made a simple dinner, turned on warm lights, played soft jazz, poured a glass of white wine. I opened my laptop, let the mission statement of our foundation glow across the screen one more time, and I thought, I didn't win by making them suffer. I won by refusing to stay silent. And that was enough. Piper's story is a powerful reminder that betrayal doesn't always come from strangers. Sometimes it begins at the family table, behind familiar smiles. But when she chose to stand up, not with rage, but with clarity and lawful action, she reclaimed justice and lit a path for others. In a world where silence is often mistaken for duty, Piper proved that truth, when armed with reason, can redefine what family really means. What about you? Would you have the courage to act when it's your own family causing the hurt? Share your thoughts below, and don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss more powerful stories about family, boundaries, and healing.